In this lesson, we're going to learn about the stick texture tag and how we can use it with geometry that has a deformer that causes the texture to slip around on the surface of our object. Okay, so I have here a picture viewer render of a very typical situation that you might run into. So I've got just a plain ball with a procedural noise texture on it, and the ball has been animated to kind of zip around, and it has a jiggle deformer on it. So you can kind of see how here at the end of that animation, it's kind of jiggling back and forth, but you can also see that something very odd is happening with the texture. And it's a little bit more difficult to spot as this moves around, but there at the end where you really start to get the quick motion back and forth, it almost looks like the ball is a mask that is revealing a texture behind it. So we can use the stick texture tag to fix issues such as this one. So let's go ahead and take a look at our actual Cinema 4D project. You can see I just got a sphere with a jiggle deformer on it. The jiggle deformer is the one that I've noticed has the most trouble with this type of issue. And the fact that you can't see it in this type of a view where we're just kind of scrubbing along is very tough, because you might not do an actual animation of this where you have pre-rendered something, and even in just a little tiny sort of playback blast kind of render, you're not going to be able to really tell that's what's happening. You have to do a higher quality render to really be able to pick up on it. So it can be very difficult to spot this issue. So know that if you're using procedural textures on a sphere like this one, that hasn't been UV'd, it's just, you know, regular object with its defaults basically, and the texture's just been dropped on there, you're going to have an issue like this, and it can be fixed extremely easily. So all we have to do is come up here to our sphere. You want to select the object that has the texture with the issue. You'll go to tags, Cinema 4D tags, and come down and choose the stick texture tag. And that is literally all you have to do. Just drop that tag on there, and really quickly I'm going to render another set of frames to my picture viewer so that you can see the difference. So for me, since this is such a simple render, it's only going to take a second, but I will pause while it does this, and then we'll be able to compare the two versions. So one moment while we let this finish rendering. Okay, our render finished up. Let's go ahead and play back. And as you can see, that texture still looks just as good as it did before, but now it's sticking perfectly to the ball, and we're not getting any kind of that slipping and shifting over the surface. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you are using a jiggle deformer and you're just using regular procedural textures. Keep that in mind whenever you are going to do your render. Save yourself some time from creating your final render and then realizing that you have to re-render because your texture has an error. Okay, so that is it for the stick texture tag. Stick around, and in the next lesson we're going to be talking about using 3D objects with 2D looking textures. So anytime you want to do some 2D styled motion graphics that have a very flat look, you can really quickly and easily texture these right inside of Cinema 4D, and then you still get those 3D deformations that are just kind of more difficult to get in a 2D compositing application. So stick around, and we'll be talking about how to texture those types of looks in our next lesson.